Greetings and welcome to Alan's COVID-19 update. My name is Bob Stolz. I'm the CEO and team leader of Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley, and I will also be your moderator this afternoon. Also with us is Olivia Creighton, our Director of Agent Services, who will be collecting and reading questions that are sent in the chat boxes that we will answer at the end. So as we get started, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Alan Wang. Alan is the founder of the Alan Wang Realty Group, as well as Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley. Alan's team is ranked in the top 100 in the nation and has been in the industry for some 17 years. Alan is his leader with passion, which we all know who work with him. And he's passionate about ushering in the next generation of customer-focused real estate service professionals. Alan is also has a great background in the technology industry. For over 14 years, he worked at companies which include Sun Microsystems, Google, Cisco Systems, LinkedIn, with roles from project management to business development. So our format this afternoon is going to be 45 minutes with Alan, where we'll talk back and forth and try and cover some ground on where we are with COVID, followed by 15 minutes of question and answer. Remember to type those questions into the chat box so that Olivia can collect them up. And in the last 15 minutes, she will read them back. We will discuss the answers that are in them, and then Olivia will hand it back to me to close. So that's where we're going. So let's start with Alan. Alan, welcome this afternoon. This is a great opportunity to get a chance to talk with you about the industry and about your vast experience. So to get us started, let's get to know you a little bit. First, and really important, Alan, how are you? How's the family? How are you holding up during this COVID-19 sheltering?
Hey, Bob. Well, it's good to be here this afternoon. I'm holding all right. I mean, I've got 3 young kids, and between managing the schedule that we have with real estate in our business and managing their calendars, it's emails, angry emails from the teachers. Why aren't they on the call? It's something else. It's definitely, but all I can say is it's great to spend time with the family. And also, we're blessed to be at least healthy, and our hearts go out to those that are struggling with that. So we're not going to complain. We're going to do our part here.
Absolutely. I'm impressed, Alan, you can even remember your name after what, 2.5 months now of sheltering in place and small children and a household and a business. It's really fantastic. I'm glad you've all stayed well. I'm not sure the system would have tolerated an extended sickness. So. Very good, Alan. I'm glad things are going well personally. So, Alan, tell us a little bit about your real estate journey. How did you get started in real estate, and what drove you toward real estate as a main vocation instead of an avocation?
Great question, Bob. About 18, 19 years ago, I had purchased my first home in the Bay Area, and I just noticed that there was quite an archaic method and process of doing business. It was very low tech, very high, the communication wasn't there. I was being told what to do instead of being educated to make my own decisions. It was quite frustrating, and the transaction, it went all right, but there were parts of it that I just thought could have been done much better. And so from that perspective, I said, I can build something better than what I'm seeing in the industry. And so that's what I really embarked to do in the last 17 years, build the next generation of realtor that focuses on the consumer, but then also leverages technology to create a better experience for them. And that's what I've been doing in the last 17 years, and I absolutely love it. It's been really a pleasure just getting to know our clients and serving them and their needs.
You know, Alan, it's funny. I think 8 years ago, you helped me buy a condo for my oldest son, and then my youngest son, and then my virtual adopted son, who all needed to go to school up in San Francisco. And you helped me get that condo. And I remember going into it with really just so many details and problems swirling around. And I decided I was just going to trust you because I had absolute faith you knew what you were doing. And you did. I think we were 9th in the bidding as far as price was concerned, and we won hands down. So yeah, Alan, I would say you've got this to a real art. I appreciate it both personally, and that's been a long time ago. You know, you've had even more time to develop. That's fantastic.
That's what we love to do, Bob.
Clearly it is, Alan. It's a passion. Talk to us a little bit then about market conditions. First, what were the major changes that you've noticed in the industry since we got into this shelter in place?
Okay, I'm going to share a quick graphic here. And just to help people see this, are you all able to see my screen here? The real estate COVID-19 timeline?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I mapped out kind of what happened, and I'm going to talk about it as things occurred. Before shelter in place, before March 16th, if we reverse back to 2019 and Q4, interest rates were actually quite low in Q4, and inventory tends to be low. So there was actually quite a bit of a seller's market going on at the end of 2019. So that momentum carried into 2020. So if you were out in the market January, February, or right before shelter in place, the market was red hot for sellers. So it's a complete seller's market, multiple offers, low inventory. We looked like we were coming up on that spring season that we're so used to seeing, which is typical. There's a lot of buyer activity, not too many houses on the market. But literally March 16 came and everything came to a halt. I mean, literally everything came to a halt. And I'm not saying just everything. I mean, we as realtors were not allowed to be out and about. And so there was certainly a lot of uncertainty. I actually reviewed offers on March 17th on a house. I was expecting 15 to 20 offers. We got 7, and I was expecting to push probably 200, 250K over list. You know, we pushed 165 over list, but definitely people were very nervous. And we actually had 2 houses that reviewed offers on that Tuesday. And there were still, on the other property, there were 5 offers, and then everyone got cold feet. They were expecting 5, there were 3, and then 1 actually took it, but they were very nervous, and it was a lot of hand-holding and managing. From March 16 onward, things got a little odd. We were basically in a panic mode, all of us. Could we sell houses? How do we sell houses? Could we really do it virtually? How do we, is the title company open? Are appraisers working? How are we going to get this done? So it's definitely a lot of angst in the month of March. April 1st came, and realtors were deemed essential. And that was great, at least in our area, in our counties, our 6 counties in this area. We were deemed essential, but there were some new protocols. We could only show empty, vacant homes. We had to put our masks on, our gloves, sign waivers, only 2 people in the house unless it's a couple with the same family. And we had to have social distancing. And those are actually still in effect. And so as April rolled around, there were actually some buyers out and about looking around, not a ton, but there also wasn't a lot of inventory either. As you can imagine, we had sellers just take their homes off the market in March if it didn't sell, just waiting to see what happens. And so what was out there, buyers were looking at, but again, not a ton of buyers out either. I mean, there was kind of a mixed bag. May 4th rolls around, and basically they loosened the owner-occupied criteria. You could now show homes that were owner-occupied or tenant-occupied, but those occupants had to leave the house. And also on May 4th, construction, landscaping, and also staging became allowed as well. So we were getting really creative in April. How do we virtually show the house? When people couldn't come to take photos, they couldn't come to do the 3D tours. So we would be going out with our cameras and trying to film and do different types of virtual type of deals there. But as May 4th came, and as we're ending the month of May, as we're able to show owner-occupied homes, there's definitely more buyers that are coming out and about, and also the owners are also putting their houses on the market. May 18th, as you know, stage 2 of shelter in place. They're slowly loosening retail businesses, and you can see things are slowly opening up. And at least for the month of May, we're seeing more inventory, still low, and we're seeing some buyers out and about as well. And currently, we're actually seeing still low inventory, and the good homes, there's still some competition over, but it's hit or miss. It's definitely not every house is flying. If it's a nice house remodel, there's definitely action around it, possibly multiple offers, but the other ones may be sitting longer. So that's the general timeline, Bob.
Excellent, Alan. Thanks. That really kind of lays it out. Let me ask you another question, just kind of off the cuff here. So I remember what it was like when I bought my first house, and I remember just how frightening an experience that was. I was raised in a family where, debt was not a good thing, and it was barely permissible for a house. And it was different times then. But today, if I was getting ready as a first-time buyer to buy a house, I think I'd be really worried about the markets, about COVID, about the stock market, about banking, all of this stuff. how would you help me kind of clear the haze to what I should be thinking about if I really want to buy a house and this is the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, I mean, I'll tell you, there's 6 things I know right now, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a crystal ball question coming, but there are 6 things I know right now, and I'll tell you what that is. As a new buyer, I'll try to help you with. Number one, first and foremost, real estate is alive and well. March 16th, I was worried. I'm definitely going to be honest with you. I was worried. Oh boy, is this going to totally put real estate on hold? And the answer is no. There are still sellers that need to sell, and there's still buyers that need to buy. So real estate is alive and well. We're detecting that homes are actually core to our industry, our economy even, right? It's core to our lives, core to the United States, and core to our local economies. We always need homes. And so from that perspective, I would say homes are a need, not a want. So in that sense, it's a good thing for you to think about as a first-time home buyer. The second thing I would tell you is that the best products on the market will still sell. What do I mean by the best products? The best products, I mean, are the homes that are remodeled, move-in ready. They have great schools. They have great locations close to the offices. Prices are still within reach, where a working couple, a single income or dual income can still reach with a reasonable down payment. Those homes will still do fine. And these will often sell with multiple offers, sometimes just one workable offer, and that's completely fine. And we're seeing that those homes up to about $2 million, they're still flying off the market. The third thing I would tell you as a first-time homeowner, if you're buying in a area that has affordable housing, meaning the homes that are pretty affordable, especially single-family homes that are, let's say, a single-family home under $1 million, those are still heavily in demand. We put one on the market yesterday, and we've had showings almost every hour at $850K. And it's definitely been eye-opening because it's been very busy. And I think those houses will always have demand because they're still in a fairly affordable bracket, right under the 1.3 median home price. So all those homes under 1.3 under the median are still seeing a good amount of traction. The fourth thing I would tell you as a buyer is, for a price, the home will sell. So if there's the right price, I'm telling you, as a first-time home buyer, you will be interested, right? If the price is right, you will go. But the only thing I'll tell you is I have to warn you that sellers are not always willing to give the price that we're willing to pay as buyers. So you have to it's a dance that we have to do. It's a negotiation to make sure it's a win-win for both sides. And then fifth, I will warn you, the townhome condo market, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking for an opportunity, I would say the condo sector is a little soft right now. They seem to be sitting longer than most, and some townhomes, depending on where they're located. If they're located well, then they may move faster or they're good condition. But other than that, they might be sitting around. So as a first-time home buyer, and if you're on a budget, right, there's some potential opportunity there. And again, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking for the upper end and luxury homes, those are struggling. Those are struggling a bit. And so if you got the budget for that, there's an opportunity for you in the upper end homes. I'm saying anything 2.5 and above, 3 mil above. I'm seeing them sitting around. So if you're in the market for one of those, it's a good time because generally those are pretty red hot. But Bob, I don't know if that helps you out, Bob, as a first-time home buyer. Just there's some definitely things that I can tell you that work in your favor.
It does, Alan. It's huge help. Let me ask you a trade-off in there. If you're limited by your amount of budget under the median price, so you're under 1.3, and you're looking at maybe a single-family unit in less than your first, second, or third choice location, or maybe a little upgrade to your second or first choice for a condo or a townhouse, how would you help us kind of make that decision?
That's a great question. I would say if you were to rank the preferences of buyers of home types, I would say the single family home is definitely the most popular, and for good reason. You have a lot, you have a backyard, you have freedom, you have no homeowners association to deal with. We all know that could be kind of messy. So having a single family home is definitely ideal. So if your budget is, I'm looking at a townhome or a single family, and you're right in between those two, I would push you towards a single family. If you can do it, I would just do that. There's just more freedom there for you and more value at the end of the day. Now, most of it boils down to budget or preference. If you're the type that says, you know what, I'm early in my career, I want something new. I don't want to do any yard work. I don't have time for it. I'm very busy. Then a townhome is good for you, right? Or if you value the amenities of the pool and the gym and walkability and all that, all those things that are valuable, especially when you're early in your life, in your career especially, then the townhome or condo work really well. But it typically it's about budget, right? Most people will skew towards a single family if it's in the budget. Otherwise, they'll compromise for the townhouse or the condo.
Excellent. Thanks, Alan. That was great advice. Okay, let's try another question. Want you to get out your crystal ball now, and I want you to polish it all up, and I'm going to hand it to you through the video. And where do you think things are coming for the rest of 2020? Very good. It's nice and clean.
Yeah, very clean, very clean. Well, the crystal ball question is always tough, especially in these variable times. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go with the MBA answer. When I first started, first day of MBA school, I learned something when the professor put out a question, and I noticed he never really said who was right or wrong. The answer was always, it depends. And then I'm going to tell you that it depends. I'll tell you what are the unknowns right now. There are a lot of unknown variables in front of us. Coronavirus, COVID-19, of course. This is the biggest question mark that's going to really weigh on everybody's mind. Could there be spiking cases this coming winter? Will we shelter in place again in the fall? Right? Will everything come to a halt again like we saw in March? Or could there be a vaccine, a treatment, get us back to some type of normalcy fairly quickly? The odds of that probably low, but that's a big variable. The other question is supply and demand. Will there be more sellers selling their homes than buyers out to buy them? If so, then we will be in a buyer's market. If there are more buyers demand than the homes on the market, then we will be in the seller's market. So those are two dynamics that we need to monitor. Traditionally, we have not had a lot of homes here enough for the demand. That's traditionally been the case. But we've also never been in COVID-19, a pandemic, and I'm sure buyers are worried and concerned. And so that dynamic is there. Health of tech is another concern I have. And both of you mentioned stock market. And for me, NASDAQ is probably the big one that I monitor. So between tech and NASDAQ, those are the two that merge together, because these are the fundamental down payments of all the customers in this area. So if the NASDAQ is down, then down payments are down, and people aren't feeling like buying homes if their stocks are down. And that's definitely the case. So the big question I have is employment. If everything holds steady, then I think things should hold steady in our area. If we have layoffs in the tech sector, then a drop is coming, as there will be lower demand and prices will probably drop. So I've seen a few layoffs of companies that understandably are affected, right? The Airbnbs, the Ubers, the Lyfts of the world. But I mean, the other ones are still holding steady. I know they're not hiring, but at least for now, I haven't seen them laying off either. They seem to be holding steady. So if that holds steady, then prices should hold steady, and the market hopefully should hold fairly steady with some opportunity here and there. And the last one I would say is the election year. That is something that we need to weigh on our minds. Is come November, well, I mean, it depends, right? Depends on who gets elected, what's going to change. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty at that period of time. So that's the variables ahead of us. But Bob, I'm going to tell you, at a high level, I'll give you the two trains of thought.
Okay.
There's the optimist and there's the pessimist. Okay. So as shelter in place lifts, the optimist is going to say that we're going to get more and more confident. The buyers have been trapped in their homes, and it's clear that where they live is just not good enough. That tiny apartment, a lot of people we've been meeting with, that tiny apartment is just not enough. And they'll come back on the market, interest rates are low, their jobs are secure. Let's find a good home to work from home for the rest of the year at the least, or possibly into next year, right? So that's the optimist. Now, the pessimist believes the worst is still to come. Right? People will move out of this area because they don't need to be here. Sellers will flood the market. Buyers may be waiting, thinking something might get worse, and then there'll be a decline in pricing. So those are the two views that might pop out. I'm a bit in the middle here on these two. In the short run, I think there might be some variability, ups and downs, right? As I said, there'll be natural selection, right? Beautiful homes in good areas, well priced, they will move. The ones that are not remodeled, need more work, sellers aren't budging on pricing, they may sit around for a little while, and there's some opportunities on those as they sit around. So I think it'll be fairly flat. There's some opportunity here and there in different houses. I don't know that it's going to be ratcheting up 5-10% all of a sudden in pricing. I think we'll be a fairly balanced market, is my opinion.
That's interesting, Alan. The optimist and the pessimist is interesting. If I'm a new buyer, or a seller for that matter, thinking of listing my home, and those, are just those huge decisions. What about local versus universal news? Should I be paying as much attention to, for instance, national conditions or world conditions with real estate, or state, or is it localized to Santa Clara County, or is it kind of neighborhood by neighborhood. How should I filter the data to determine whether I should be an optimist or a pessimist?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I always like to look at everything from a global perspective, but I remember when Lawrence Yun, the economist for the National Association of Realtors, came to speak to us. He shows us all these charts, and then he tells us Silicon Valley just seems to be in its own little, I mean, forgive the term, bubble, right? It's unique. It just does what it does, right? When he compares it to the rest of the nation. So I wouldn't take data points from Idaho, for example, and compare to us. We definitely live in a very unique place where, because of tech and the industry, the lack of homes that we have and the demand for folks to be near these great and work at these great companies that are headquartered here, I think that's why looking at the local tech companies' health, that's what I really, really look at. If the companies are healthy and people are employed and their down payments and their stocks are intact, they have the ability to buy. And then that will obviously help the sellers out as well. But we do need to monitor things, because before this whole mess of COVID-19, we were monitoring the China trade wars, right? Some folks were worried about the trade wars. And it really was just folks were worrying how would that affect the economy and local economy and their companies, et cetera. Turns out COVID-19 was a bigger impact, and we're still holding steady. So no, I do monitor some things, but definitely we have a nice microeconomy here that we can monitor. But to answer your question, Bob, also beyond just, okay, Silicon Valley is its own little bubble or shielded bubble, we do need to look at neighborhoods too. Right? And it's almost like I said, there's prime neighborhoods where schools are excellent and they're close to work. And then there are other neighborhoods that are further south that may not have the best school district and they tend to be more affordable. But there's just every neighborhood has its own nuances. And I think you have to look at that data as well.
So it sounds like if I'm looking for a real estate agent to help me with a buy or to list, I need to find someone who can really dig down into the micro climate of my neighborhood. I know the house I live in is, built back in 1947. It's a giant lot, but it's an old house. Yet in my neighborhood, within 3 or 4 blocks, there are houses built in the 40s, the 50s, the 80s. And that makes a difference, doesn't it, when you're trying to figure out a value?
Absolutely. We've been doing this a lot for our sellers because of the market shifting. We literally look into their neighborhood and we analyze the data and try to determine, is it a good time to sell or not? And we can tell by how many homes are active, pending, and sold, and what the activity is, or how many are canceled listings or expire listings or drawn listings. If there are a ton of those, then we know these houses aren't selling, right? But if we can see that the data states that the activity on the pending and sold are overtaking the actives, and that's a really good sign for us. So yeah, no, definitely every neighborhood's different, and we have to basically evaluate them separately.
Thanks, Alan. That's a good consideration. I think there's so many facets to this. It can become overwhelming as a buyer, especially a first-time buyer.
Absolutely.
Let's go back and double click on some points. I remember reading just within the last month about California shrinking at the rate of 800,000 to 1 million, depending on whose numbers you're listening to, a year. I've read some things politically that the state of California may even lose a seat in the House of Representatives because of declining population. So to kind of go back and double click on your points, there have been a lot of articles circulating about what to do with work policies, and a lot of people, because of Zoom and other teleconferencing programs, have been able to work at home like they couldn't do years ago. And we read articles about them fleeing the Bay Area and out of the state. And wow, that's a lot of churn. But the weather's still great here. Our economy, high tech, is still clicking along, even though they're letting a lot of them work at home. How do you think that's all going to wrap together and net out?
That's definitely been one of the questions I've been getting a lot of. And personally, for me, I think just saying, oh, wow, my company's letting me work from home and I'm just going to move somewhere far away. That's a 2-hour commute, typically in traffic each way. I personally think that's short-sighted. I've worked at these companies and these tech companies with remote workforces in different countries, in different cities, in different states. I still tell you, nothing beats the efficiency of being able to work side by side on a team that's trying to build a product or roll out a service, and to work side by side. Those quick questions that you need answers to right now as you're coding something and you're working, you go, hey, Bob, how are you writing that array? Okay, got it. And I can keep doing my work. That is just irreplaceable. Now it's, let me text Bob, let me see if he's free to answer my little question, or I'm gonna Slack him, and then he's busy, and then I go off and do something else, and then it becomes inefficient. So that productivity, especially having teams co-located and attacking a goal together, is still very powerful. I was reading Google's blog about this, and they're saying we do want to get back to the office because the hallways are where we get some of our best ideas of innovation when we talk. That's why they feed them, right? They want them to stay at the office. They want them to have lunch with each other, share knowledge, innovate, come up with those ideas over a meal, right? Rather than spending that time to go get your own food and you're not collaborating with your colleagues, right? So I think that's where I think they will get back to this. So I think moving to 2 hours away, and then suddenly the company, when things clear up a year from now, they go, well, no, we want you back in here. I mean, I don't think Google's building that big old new headquarters next to the Googleplex for their health. I mean, I think they want people to be co-located. So that's my thought on it. I think in the short run, I think that's fine. If you want to get a house on the beach for now while you're working, that's great. But I think eventually you'll probably have to come back here. So keep that in mind as you look forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. When you've been around long enough that your hair turns this funny color that mine did, this kind of whitish color. I remember seeing several of these trends ripple through high tech. There was a period where it was work at home 3 days a week, in the office 2 days a week, or you work 2 50-hour weeks and then you take the days off in the following. There have been a lot of things like that. There's been, and I've watched the tide move back and forth. I think you're right there. That tide is going to continue to shift because humans right next to each other, you're right. That's absolutely the most efficient way to work. So yeah, I think you're right.
It is.
It's going to go back and forth, and got to be careful staking a long-term strategy like where you live on a short-term trend.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
Yeah, very good. Well, let's move on to another question. What are you seeing in terms of buyer and seller behaviors in your recent dealings? Psychology is always interesting, and you put people under pressure, and like COVID and unemployment and working at home and children. What kind of behaviors are you seeing in buyers that you might be able to help them with as they're thinking about whether or not to get started?
Yeah, buyers. I mean, definitely there are a lot of buyers that are just not playing this game right now. They're on the bench. They're going to see what happens. There's definitely a lot of buyers that are doing that. The buyers that are out and about, number one, they're picky. Their standards are higher. When it was a seller's market, it was, I don't care. It's got a $200K remodel. Don't worry, as is. You know, no contingencies. 200,000 over list. I need to have this home because there's nothing else to buy, right? But right now they're getting picky. They don't want to do the work. I mean, imagine if you're buying a house and you have a strange contractor crew coming in while you're living there with everything going on. It's kind of risky, right, for the family. It's really, really risky, and people they're not sure they want to deal with that, and so they're really putting a premium on those move-in ready homes. Oh wow, this house is all done, remodeled. I'll pay a little more for that. I'm okay with that. The second part that I find quite comical is obviously buyers think there's blood in the street, right? They think there's blood in the street, although the problem is inventory is actually very low. So blood is actually not in the street. There are buyers around and there's not much to buy. So in that sense, it's kind of evened out. But I had a buyer the other day, this house listed on the first day on the market, and they liked it. And they go, I want to offer 700,000 under list. I'm going, 700,000 under list? Are you kidding? On day one? I said, my jaws dropped, and I just thought it was, I mean, this was a very veteran investor too, right? But she's smelling blood. But I'm going, let's take a step back. It's the first day on market, right? I mean, yes, 30 days from now, I mean, honestly, even 30 days from now, I don't think we could write an offer like that. But if it sits around for 6 months, okay, yeah, sure, right? It's not moving. Maybe, it's still, I mean, 700,000 is a lot of money. If they teach you in negotiations, make an offer at the edge of what's reasonable. And that just doesn't seem even close to the edge, right? It's off the cliff. So, yeah, I find that comical. It tells you that there's a buyer, there's a deal, right? There's definitely that. So on the buy side, those are the two trends I've been noticing.
How about for sellers? What behaviors you see from them that are different? Are they spooked?
Sellers are a bit spooked. I'll tell you, let's talk about primary homeowners and investors. The
Yeah.
investors are definitely trying to unload. That's what I've noticed. I've gotten calls from more investors with tenants in their properties than I've ever had in my career. I think they want to get out, right? They want to exit. The primary homeowners do want to exit, but they're also kind of optimistic as well. Those folks haven't changed. They're always going to be sellers. To the emotional side to their houses, they love their houses. They tend to a little bit more than the market typically on pricing. Almost stubborn on that. But they're optimistic that, hey, once shelter-in-place lifts, we'll have more buyers out. Let's see, right? So the ones that are on the market, they're not panicking just yet. They're going, if everyone's at home, they're not looking at my house, so I'll just wait. I'll wait till shelter-in-place lifts, and then I'll proceed from there. So that's the general seller sentiment right now.
That's amazing. What do you think about investors? Do you think what do you think's motivating them to unload and sell off holdings? Do you have any sense? Is there a trend in that?
I mean, investors are investors, right? They're trying to catch the peak. And so they're probably smelling that things are going to turn. And so they want to exit before that. And even if they probably missed the peak, it was in March. But prices have held pretty steadily overall. And so they're probably saying, you know what, I'm okay to catch off peak. Let me just get out now, especially my tenant's lease coming up anyways. I don't know what's going to happen a year from now. So maybe I'll just exit now and take the gains that I've already made. Just take it off the table. That's what I think their heads are right now.
Okay.
But a lot of investors are also trying to pick up a deal on the other side. So they're trying to pick up something else and then just move that money at the 1031 exchange and try to buy something else as well and try to take advantage. So they're trying to arbitrage. I think they're trying to arbitrage.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well let's kind of condense it down to some real pithy kind of advice. The short little bone mows that work. So let's use a metaphor of, Alan, I've never jumped out of an airplane before, and the back door is open and my parachute's strapped on, and you're my jump coach, and you're standing right next to me, and my knees are knocking, and I'm not sure what the heck I was doing here and why I would agree to such a silly thing, jumping out of an airplane that isn't on fire. So I'm standing there, I'm ready to go, and I'm a buyer. Just before I run for the back of the airplane and jump, what should I know? What would you tell me? Those couple of just special things.
Yeah, I would say just be realistic with what's going on in the marketplace. Put yourself in the seller's shoes, right? And just kind of understand where they're coming from, and just understand that we have to know when we can go deep in and negotiate hard, and then we have to know when to hold back. If there are 2 or 3 other people offering on this house, you can't really do that to the seller, right? You have to kind of step back, and so my advice would be evaluate the field, right, before we do anything. And then we'll come up with the strategy appropriately. We can't just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this every single time. We have to evaluate what we're looking up against and look at the field. And then from that point, we'll come up with the right strategy. So either we can go aggressive if it's sitting around for a while and the seller is moving to Arizona and their house is in jeopardy. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're extremely motivated. But if it's a seller that's been in his house for 50 years and, in no hurry to go anywhere, they're not as motivated. So you can't really just drop them $700K offer. It's not going to work, right? So I think that's my advice to you. Let's just be realistic.
Cool. Very good. And if I was a seller, it would be similar advice?
Similar advice. Yeah. You got your parachute on. Also be realistic with the market. I think sellers tend to, like I mentioned, we love I love my home, right? I have emotional attachment to it. I'm very proud of the wood floors I put in and all that. But the market will ultimately tell you what your house is worth. I've had sellers holding on to pre-COVID prices. I mean, let's just be realistic, right? I mean, that was pre-COVID. Everything was good momentum. Everything was going. And even if we catch off peak a little bit, that's still a huge win. I mean, let's say 6 months from now, we are 20% down. You're going to be really upset at yourself for not selling off peak, right? Just off peak a little bit. And I think a lot of us, as human nature, we want to catch the peak. Right? On the stock market, we want to catch the bottom. On our home prices, our stock prices, we want to catch the top. It's really difficult to do. That's by the time those points have passed, they passed already. You missed it, right? You've already missed it once you figured it out. So I think just try and do your best to be real estate. The market will tell you what your house is worth, and listen to the market.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, we've seen that in stock options and high tech. Everybody tries to find that highest point or that very lowest point, and you can't. It's dumb luck at that point.
It
You
really is.
catch somewhere on the base of the curve or on the arch of the curve with some range across it. And if that's
Absolutely.
yeah, that's tough, I think, for homeowners and buyers to see. Trying to find spending too much time looking for that very top peak or very lowest point in the sine wave of the prices. So
Absolutely.
thanks, Alan. Yeah, that really helped. So let's open up for some Q&A now. And let's ask Olivia to step on in. And Olivia, do we have some questions?
We do not. If people want to start just putting their questions into the chat, that would be great. I'll start reading them off. I'll give everyone a minute to
while you're doing that,
type some questions.
Drill Alan a little more. So Alan, talk to me about appreciation curves and depreciation curves. When it comes to, and this is, I'm not looking for math, I'm looking for trends. Take Cupertino. Everybody wants to live in Cupertino. But West San Jose is right next door. And Mountain View, Sunnyvale, they're all in and around there. And none of them are Palo Alto or Los Altos. So when you're looking at those and kind of deciding between, do you get the worst house in Cupertino or a better house in West San Jose? If you look at it from kind of a investment standpoint, family investment, if nothing else, do you see differences in the curves? Can you give somebody a little bit of an idea about, do I take that rat hole in Cupertino, or do I take something more livable in West San Jose, or, I've got something really kind of nice in Almaden? What do I do?
Yeah, those are daily trade-offs that buyers have to make. Cupertino, I'll tell you, if you're talking about trends, in 2008, when the downturn came for the subprime meltdown, Cupertino and West San Jose had a brief pause for about maybe 4 months where people were a little bit worried. And beyond that, in my career, I've never seen that area ever really level off. You're talking about really good areas that have good schools, close to work. They've actually held very well. Cupertino prices are higher than West San Jose, and it's almost there's a couple reasons for that. One is school district, and so Cupertino has Monte Vista High School, and then Homestead High School, Cupertino High School, Monte Vista being the one that's highly ranked, and so that's why people tend to skew that way towards Cupertino because of that school district. Whereas West San Jose, if you're talking West San Jose, you're talking about Lindbergh High School, where again, great school, also neck to neck with Monte Vista every year. Go Vikings! I was an alumni there. But here it is. Here's the decision point. If you're a buyer in Cupertino, you're going to get less for your money. The city's just slight bit more prestigious, right? In different ways for different reasons. So your house is going to be smaller and a little bit more expensive. Whereas in West San Jose, you're going to have a bigger house at a lower price. So you'll have to make that trade-off. And if you go to Almaden, you have all the best schools and a huge house and a giant lot for half the price, right? So they're just, well, maybe not half, maybe 60% or 70%. But the compromise there is the commute. Right. So basically, that's really the key is how much house do you need? And do you need the prestigious city of the Los Altos or the Palo Alto, or the Saratogas or the Cupertinos? And then you have to compromise as to what kind of house size you need. So some people say, hey, you know what? I don't care about my house size. I want my kids to go to these schools and be in this neighborhood. So they'll compromise on that. Other folks say, you know what? No, I want a house of a bigger size. I'm okay with still a good school, but I need more house for my family. So that's the added point there. Cool.
Thanks, Alan. That's cool. Very good. Olivia, do we have some questions?
We have one question. Yvette gives praises. She says, this is what happens when you're thorough, Alan. Not many questions.
Thank you, Yvette.
So the question's from Robert Chi. He says, if people want move-in ready, what's worth spending money on prior to listing for a seller right now? Or is it not worth doing?
Hi, Rob. Good to see you. Good question. What is worth doing? What is not? I mean, obviously every house is a little bit different, but the kitchen is the heart of the home. So if you're going to do something, you do the kitchen. I mean, that's one of the most important rooms in the house. Beyond that, you definitely do a paint job and try to get a nice two-tone paint going on the inside and outside. That's fairly inexpensive, but definitely worth it. If the house has carpet, definitely change the carpet. Wood floors seem to be still very much in style right now. So if you do have those wood floors, we'll get them refinished or repaired. If they're under the carpet, get rid of the carpet, go with the wood, and get that refinished. Or you can do a kiss polish, they call it, which is cheaper. Or they can actually sand it down and really repolish that floor and make it really nice. And those are some of the basic things. Bathrooms, it depends. There are ways to do it at a cost-effective basis. You can definitely lay some tile. You can bring in that cabinet with the quartz already installed and just roll it in and just change the stall. If there's old tiles there, you can put in some new porcelain tile as well. And that could be done at a fairly low cost as well and still feel new. So from my perspective, I think those things, if you just do the kitchen, if you got hardwood flooring, great. Otherwise, we'll do carpet, interior, exterior paint, and possibly a little touch up on the bathrooms. These will go a long way. Because also, I don't want you to spend 6 months doing a remodel either, right? Because who knows what the market is in 6 months. But I want you to spend a month or two, hopefully at most, something quick that we can get done quickly so you can add more value to your home.
Let me tag on to that one.
Mm-hmm.
What if you've been in your home for a long time? There's a lot of people, I know most people change houses, every 5 years, something like that.
I think it's 7 now. Yeah, 7.
7 now? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the person who's been there like 20 years? They're getting older. Maybe they're not done yet, but they're thinking about changing something about house, either downscaling into something that doesn't have a yard and all the key and all that sort of thing. But there's quite a bit of money involved with, I noticed that basically remodeling has gone up like crazy since the big fires last year. You just can't find contractors. And is there any way to do that without using your own dollar? I mean, can you do it against the sale, and how would that work?
Yeah, there are teams like ours who we can discuss different ways to do it. We have partnerships with contractors where you can put a certain percentage down first and get that work done. If it's a reasonable team is willing to help, get it back in escrow or as cancellation or expiration. So we can help you with that. So definitely there are ways to do that where you can bill it to escrow and then you can add value to your property. Definitely multiple ways.
Cool. Thanks. That's an interesting angle. I don't think that was around 20 years ago.
No, it wasn't. And would these owners be staying in the property or would they be out and then we can actually do some work?
No, probably could be a mixed bag. It's just hypothetical. Obviously, if you got major construction going on, it's tough to live in a house. There's always a tent in the backyard, but a lot of people don't like to go back to that. So anyway, I think that does it. Olivia, do we have any other questions?
Yep, we have one more question that got emailed to us. It says, it's from Alekia. She's asking, is this a good time to buy a house or will the prices go down further in the coming months, considering the additional costs we incur like property tax, insurance, and mortgage interest? If there's no appreciation for the house, then we would waste a lot of the money in these additional costs. So she's just wanting your thoughts.
So it's a crystal ball question. Basically, how are things looking? If I buy my house now and I remodel it, will I be losing money going forward? Okay, got it. So that's, again, it's a tough question. As I mentioned, there are quite a few variables right now. I'd say I always look at real estate as more of a long-term investment rather than a short-term investment. So if you're going in it hoping to flip it in 3 to 4 months, I think it's a little risky right now. If you're a flipper, right? If you're going to go in, buy a house, and then flip it in 3 months, or if you're flipping it closer to election time, I would say I don't know. I think that's a bit concerning on that front. Holding houses for the long run. I mean, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I'm very confident we'll be back and running. I mean, 2 years at the minimum, right? As soon as we get out of this, get a vaccine or some way to deal with COVID-19, I think we will be onto a recovery. But to your question, it's hard to say. I don't know which way things are going to go right now. Right now, all things look pretty good. The inventory is low. Buyers are out. Looks like it's going to be a level year, possibly a few bright price drops here and there. But if it swings, as I mentioned, the pessimist way, where layoffs start happening in the Silicon Valley, the stock market starts dropping again, and buyers are scared and nervous again, and they're not buying homes, and sellers start understanding that they need to keep dropping their prices to sell their houses, then it would have been a bad move. But if you're not planning to flip your house in 3 to 4 months, you're planning to be in there for 3 to 5 at least, or even 10 in the long run, or 7 like the average family, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the remodel, enjoying it with your family, and you're adding value to the house now, and in the long run, it'll be just fine.
Excellent.
We have one more that came in from Rajesh. He's asking, is there still a lot of new house building going on?
Okay. Hey, Rajesh, good to see you again. Good question. That's something actually we didn't cover today, which is really, really good that you brought it up. We're definitely seeing opportunities with new home construction, meaning from a reputable builder, from that new construction business. That construction mix, the city of Mountain View, for example, halted, all their inspectors stopped working with the shelter in place. And so what happened is construction has come to a full halt on that front. I think a lot of cities, different cities have different policies, but construction has definitely slowed because the inspectors aren't inspecting, period. Again, construction was allowed in May 18th, but if there's no inspectors to inspect along the way, then you're really not making any progress. Now, the homes that are completed by new home construction builders, they've been dealing on those. We've actually closing one today or tomorrow. We got $100,000 off the price pre-COVID. It was amazing. It was a model home, and yeah, we really took that builder and negotiated hard. And I think they wanted to meet some numbers. So there are some opportunities there if the property is actually done. We have another client that's waiting for new home construction to come, and because everything's frozen, there's no timeline right now, and they're not going to be able to buy that for a while until that's ready.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Is there a lot of inventory still?
You're welcome, Maria.
New houses?
There is actually, there is, but only the ones that are completed.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
If they can't take it to the finish line, then they're just sitting there, and they just can't close.
I see. Thank you.
Very good.
You're welcome.
Olivia, does that exhaust the questions?
Yep, that's the last of it.
Very good.
Perfect.
Well, great questions. I think there's a lot of insight into a really uncertain time. Alan, surely people are going to have questions and want to reach out. How can they get a private consultation with you? Absolutely.
Let me just put up my a card here. So yeah, I'm again, given everything going on with shelter in place, we're doing virtual meetings over Zoom. So we'll schedule that time, but eventually we could do a consultation in Santa Clara office. We do have plexiglass, plastic to separate if we need to do that. But yeah, just reach out to me, 408-313-4352, or send me an email, alan@realty.com, and our team will meet with you. And whether you're ready to buy now or sell now or later, a year or two from now, we just like to sit down and have the conversation and really just understand what you're trying to accomplish, because not all real estate can be implemented immediately. So we want to make sure that we come up with a plan to get there. And so just reach out to us in any of these formats.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, as we conclude today, I'd like to thank Alan very much for your time, for your insight, for your wisdom. Olivia, thank you with the logistics, helping us with the meeting and managing the questions. We appreciate it. And to each and every person who attended and those who asked questions, we greatly appreciate your presence and you choosing to spend your time with us. Have a lovely evening.